Speaker number 1, Cpl PeterDunnett. Should we rewrite history when we find out new information?
Premier candidat, Cpl PeterDunnett. Devrions-nous réécrire l'histoire lorsque nous découvrons de nouvelles informations?
Hello and welcome. My name is Cpl PeterDunnett, and today I've been asked a very interesting question. Should we rewrite history when discovering new information? Well, before I answer that, I would like to thank everybody that has not only helped support Theater Cadets, but the Effective Speaking program. Thank you so much for your time. Now, I would like to ask all of you a question. What is cancel culture? You know what? No, let's take it a step back here. Who's heard of cancel culture? Well, I have. And according to Cambridge Dictionary, cancel culture is a way of behaving in a group or society, but especially on social media, in which it is common to not only stop the support, but completely reject somebody because they've either done or said something that offends you or a group of people. But now you may ask yourselves, how is this relevant to you if you're not some big shot on social media? Well, any celebrity, author, actor, sportsman, even playwright can get canceled. But they are not the only ones. Throughout history, cancel culture has taken many forms. Some of them include the rewriting of history, but as well as censorship. From the burning of the libraries in ancient Alexandria of 250 BC, all the way to the Nazi book burnings in the 1930s, cancel culture has been here for a long time. But now, today, recently, many people have started to decide to cancel historical figures. But personally, I would like to ask why. Because if we do so, how can we truly learn from our past to better our future? Well, I don't know. But I will propose 3 methods to keep in mind before we make such radical decisions. Point number 1 is the reason we commemorate these historical figures. People are canceling Sir Winston Churchill and Sir John A. Macdonald by not only vandalizing, but destroying their statues, renaming streets, schools, buildings, libraries, and much more. But why? Why do we bother doing all of these things? Well, we do so because we not only want to commemorate the good, but the positive historical impact that they have not only made to us, to our communities, but to our nations. And yet people still choose to cancel them. Why? Well, these people do so because these historical figures have done something in the past which is considered as intolerable and inappropriate in today's standards. But then again, these things were considered as norms of the time, which leads me to point number 2, if it was a norm at the time. People are canceling Sir Winston Churchill because he was a racist. But racism was a norm, and racism was especially common in the upper class, where all the main and important decisions were being made. But now I would like to ask you to pretend. To pretend if we lived in a world where Sir Winston Churchill never existed. To pretend if we lived in a world where nobody had not only led the entirety of Britain, but as well as the Commonwealth to victory during the Second World War. Now I ask you, what would our world look like? My third point is if the pros outweigh the cons. People are canceling Sir John A. Macdonald because he made policies that did not favor the Indigenous. But then again, at the time, many politicians did not favor the Indigenous. And as a matter of fact, some of Sir John A. Macdonald's policies favored the Indigenous compared to other politicians. Okay, that's our con. But let's look at our pro. He not only was a founding father, but the very first Prime Minister of Canada. Now again, I would like to ask you to imagine. To imagine if we lived in a world where Sir John A. Macdonald never existed. To imagine if we lived in a world where nobody had built the railway. To imagine if we lived in a world where Manifest Destiny had taken place. Now, once again, I ask you, what would our world look like? No. What would Canada look like? Therefore, to conclude, my 3 points to keep in mind before are 1. the reason we commemorate these historical figures, if it was a norm at the time, and lastly, if the pros outweigh the cons. Therefore, to finally answer the question if we should rewrite history when discovering new information, my answer is no. And instead of rewriting it, we should update it. So like this, we can share our different thoughts, opinions, and point of views. And maybe instead of canceling our historical figures, we should learn from them. We should learn from our past to better our future. And paraphrasing author, but as well as security advisor Mark Galeotti once said, "Do not trifle with history. History always wins." I would like to now hand it back to the Master of Ceremonies.
Thank you, speaker number 1. Speaker number 2, please get ready.
Merci, orateur numéro 1. Prière de vous préparer, orateur numéro 2.